The real crisis is not the one Brussels is announcing on television. It is not the press conferences. It is not the sanctions packages. It is not the photo ops with new LNG terminals. The real crisis is the one happening in a single pipeline running under the Black Sea. A pipeline that the European Union has just legally banned. A pipeline that is now flowing at a higher volume than it was a year ago. And a pipeline that is now under armed Hungarian military protection. The European Union has spent 4 years constructing the most comprehensive energy disengagement program in its history. It has passed legislation. It has signed roadmaps. It has reduced Russia's share of European gas imports from 40% in 2021 to 12% in 2025. By every public measure, the policy is succeeding. And yet, on the day this video is recorded, Russia remains the EU's third largest gas supplier. Russian flows through the TurkStream pipeline are 8% higher this quarter than they were 1 year ago. Hungary's foreign minister has announced that the Hungarian section of the pipeline will be guarded by the military, following an attempted sabotage on the Serbian section in April. And the EU gas storage level sits at 36% of capacity, well below historical norms for May. This is what energy leverage looks like in 2026. And almost no one is telling you what comes next. This is not speculation. Every figure in this analysis comes from the European Council, the IEEFA EU Gas Flows Tracker, S&P Global Commodity Insights, the Bruegel Natural Gas Dataset, Eurostat Trade Data, Reuters Wire Reports, and the Center for the Study of Democracy's March 2026 report on Hungarian energy dependence. These are not Russian sources. These are the European Union's own institutions, reading their own data back to themselves. Subscribe right now, because the question of who actually controls European energy is going to define the next 2 winters. Let us begin with the numbers. In January 2026, the Council of the European Union formally adopted Regulation 2026-49, the stepwise legal ban on all Russian gas imports. The regulation entered into force on March 18, 2026. Short-term contracts must end by June 17, 2026. Long-term LNG contracts must end by January 1, 2027. Pipeline gas must end by September 30, 2027. On paper, this is the end of Russian gas in Europe. In practice, the IEEFA tracker shows that in the first quarter of 2026, Russian gas accounted for 15% of total EU gas imports, placing Moscow third behind only Norway and Algeria. Russian pipeline gas via Turkey rose by 8%. S&P Global reports daily TurkStream flows averaging 52 million cubic meters at the Stranja entry point on the Turkish-Bulgarian border. The buyers are documented: Hungary, Slovakia, Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Italy. Hungary alone paid 2.4 billion euros for Russian gas in the first 10 months of 2025, a 15% increase over the previous year. According to a March 2026 report from the Center for the Study of Democracy, Hungary's dependence on Russian crude has risen from 61% in 2021 to 93% in 2025. The country has not diversified. It has concentrated. We know more than this. We know that the EU's storage facilities are at 36% of capacity, well below the level recorded in 2022. We know that European gas prices remain over 70% higher than they were before the 2022 invasion. We know that the war in Iran has driven Middle Eastern LNG flows to their lowest levels since 2019. We know that the United States has compensated, but at sustained premium prices that Asian buyers are also bidding for. But we should be honest about what we do not know. We do not know whether the June 17 deadline for short-term contracts will be observed by all member states. We do not know how the European Commission will enforce the ban against Hungary, which has threatened legal action. We do not know what Vladimir Putin will do, though in March of this year, he publicly suggested it might be more profitable for us to stop supplies to the European market right now. That is not the statement of an exporter losing leverage. That is the statement of a supplier choosing his exit. You cannot simultaneously ban Russian gas and authorize military protection of the pipeline that delivers it. And yet that is precisely what has happened. The European Union passed a regulation in March. The Hungarian Defense Council met in April after an attempted sabotage of the TurkStream pipeline in Serbia. Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó announced that the Hungarian section would be placed under armed military protection. The legal architecture says the pipeline is being phased out. The physical architecture says it is being defended. You cannot tell a continent that its energy independence is approaching while one member state is signing a 15-year contract with Gazprom, and a second member state has just resumed Russian imports via the same disputed pipeline. Slovakia suspended Russian gas imports in January 2025. It resumed them in February. The Slovak Prime Minister has publicly called for the restoration of the Druzhba oil pipeline through Ukraine. The contradictions are not rhetorical. They are operational. And operational contradictions, unlike political messaging, show up in customs data. The European Commission's claim is that Russia's share of EU gas imports has fallen from 40% in 2021 to 12% in 2025. This claim is true. The reduction is real. Norwegian gas now supplies 55% of EU pipeline imports. Algerian gas supplies 20%. American LNG has become the EU's largest single source of liquefied natural gas. But it is the wrong measurement. The right measurement is whether Europe has gained energy sovereignty or merely changed creditors. And on that measurement, the picture is darker. NatWest's April 2026 analysis stated it plainly. Europe has traded one dependency for another, Russian pipelines for global LNG markets. LNG is shipped on tankers that pass through the Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal, both currently subject to active maritime disruption. The cost premium for non-Russian gas, sustained for 4 years, has compounded into European industrial decline and household energy poverty. The reduction is searching the house for Russian intruders, finding them in the bedroom, and missing the larger structural family of 6 in the basement. The 2 in the bedroom are pipeline volumes. The family in the basement is Europe's lost industrial competitiveness, its empty storage facilities, its exposure to the most contested shipping lanes on Earth, and the political fracture between Brussels and Budapest that Moscow no longer needs to manufacture.
In 2026.
Now we come to the deeper structural failure. European energy doctrine since 2022 has been built on 3 assumptions. First, that disengagement from Russia could be executed faster than Russia could reorganize its export geography. Second, that allied LNG markets, primarily American, would provide both volume and price stability. Third, that internal EU political consensus would hold long enough for the transition to complete. All 3 assumptions are now under stress. The first assumption, speed, has been disproved by the simple fact that TurkStream flows are higher in 2026 than they were in 2024. Russia did not need to retain 40% of the European market. It needed to retain the pipeline, the buyers, and the political relationships that prevent the legal ban from becoming an operational reality. It has accomplished all 3. The second assumption, allied substitution, has been disproved by the 2026 energy environment. American LNG arrives at European ports, but it competes with Japanese, South Korean, and now war-displaced Middle Eastern demand. The 2026 war in Iran has compressed alternative supply at exactly the moment Europe needs maximum optionality. The price premium is structural. The third assumption, political consensus, has been disproved by Hungary, which has not merely opposed the ban, but has armed the pipeline. The new Hungarian government under Peter Magyar has promised to diversify, but Magyar himself has stated that the geographical position of neither Russia nor Hungary will change. a sentence that any energy analyst will recognize as the language of accepted constraint, not the language of imminent rupture. The deeper asymmetry is this. Europe is fighting for an abstraction called energy sovereignty. Russia is fighting for revenue, for leverage, and for a divided European bloc. The first goal is ideological. The second three are operational. Operational goals tend to outlast ideological ones, particularly when winter arrives and storage is at 36%. There is a genuine constraint on the Russian side that deserves honest acknowledgement. Moscow's gas revenue is a fraction of what it was in 2021. Russian exports to Europe in 2025 were the lowest since the Soviet era. Putin's March 2026 comment about exiting the European market early was not bluster. It reflected genuine doubt in the Kremlin about whether continued sales were worth the political complication. Russia is not winning, but neither is Europe. The two are losing in different ways, on different timelines, at different costs. History does not have a good name for what happens when a continent declares energy independence faster than its infrastructure can deliver it. The closest analog is the British coal-to-oil transition of the early 20th century, which took 30 years, 2 world wars, and an empire to complete. Europe is attempting the same magnitude of transition in 5 years, in the middle of 2 active wars, while still importing from the supplier it is sanctioning. What comes next? The June 17th deadline arrives in 5 weeks. Storage must reach 90% by November 1st. Hungary's legal challenge to the EU regulation has not yet been filed, but has been signaled. Putin retains the ability to halt TurkStream flows unilaterally and has publicly hinted that he is considering it. The question nobody in Brussels will answer publicly is what European industrial policy actually looks like at 36% storage entering winter with no margin for shock. The European ban on Russian gas is the law of the European Union. Russian gas continues to flow through TurkStream at sustained high volumes. Hungary has placed the pipeline under military protection. EU storage stands at 36%, historically low. European gas prices remain 70% above pre-war levels. Russian flows are 8% higher this quarter than last year. Hungary has increased Russian crude dependence to 93%. Slovakia has resumed Russian gas imports via the same pipeline. American LNG arrives, but competes with displaced Asian and Middle Eastern demand. Vladimir Putin has publicly suggested he may exit the European market on his own timeline, not Brussels. That is the actual state of European energy in May 2026. And somewhere tonight, beneath the Black Sea, the TurkStream pipeline is moving Russian gas toward a continent that has legally banned it. Above the pipeline, Hungarian soldiers are standing watch. Above the soldiers, Brussels is announcing its energy independence. The most ambitious diplomatic disengagement of the 21st century cannot reach into a single underwater pipeline that the bloc itself permits to operate. The dependency was supposed to end. The control has changed hands. We will keep tracking every development. The June 17th deadline, the Hungarian legal challenge, the storage levels heading into winter, and the question of whether Moscow exits first. This is in your heating bill. It is in your electricity rate. It is in every European industrial job that has moved offshore in the past 4 years.